Hi, Ms. Lancaster here. Just another quick video talking about chapter 4, which is our chapter on socialization. Of course, we just finished the culture chapter, and we may remember that culture is the way of life of a group of people, and it's taught and transmitted through our lives, right? So when we talk about this transmission of culture passed down from one generation to the next, that is actually a piece of what socialization is. So, this chapter on socialization is really kind of a chapter that's going to show you how we actually learn how to be members of society. Okay. So, socialization is this social process that takes place within our groups, within our institutions, within our everyday lives, how we learn how to fit into the different groups. So, as you're going through the chapter, you're going to be it is kind of heavy in theory as far as from the symbolic interactionist perspective. So kind of pay attention to that. When we think about socialization, it is how the self, how we as individuals, ourself, how we define ourselves and how we see ourselves and how we express ourselves is all taught to us through our experiences, and that is what socialization is. So that interaction that takes place in our daily lives is a part of what socialization is. So thinking about through the chapter, it is what exactly is human nature. And, we're going to kind of dig into that. Is it natural what we do, or is it potentially taught? Okay. So recognizing the difference between the natural and how the social world shapes our actions. So that is part of that nature versus nurture debate. And you've probably heard of that before, but our book will really go into this, recognizing that there is some aspect of our nature, our biological factors that shape who we are as individuals, but the nurturing part is there as well. So the interactions that we have will shape who we are. Something that I like you to kind of think about is if you've ever known any two identical twins, they are biologically the same person, but they may act quite differently. And a piece of that can be that biology shapes who they are, but the interactions that they've had also influences. So recognizing that process of socialization, the process of interactions, the institutions that we're part of, our socialization agents can shape how we are, and how important that socialization process is to our product, to us becoming who we are as societies. So while looking through the theories of self as you're moving through, there is Sigmund Freud. For this chapter, I would say read it, but don't stress too much about Freud. If you struggle with his, you'll learn more about him in a psychology class. But I do want you to really kind of recognize and understand Charles Cooley's The Looking Glass Self and Herbert Mead's The Mind, Self, and Society. His role taking theory, he really kind of focuses on how the self is developed through stages of socialization, from imitation through the game stage. So just kind of recognizing how the dual nature of self exists, that there's aspects of both the subjective piece and the objective pieces of who we are. Then we go into Goffman, and he talks about dramaturgy, that life is like a play and that our lives are somewhat scripted. And that's something that you can reflect back then to kind of think about how human nature, how I mentioned earlier, human nature, is it natural what we do, or is it just something that's kind of expected of us? Um, we can think about last chapter with the Nasarima that it talks about in our bathroom rituals. Are those natural, or are they something that's been taught to us, right? Brushing our teeth before we go to bed or before we go out in public. Those are things that it's not necessarily a natural thing, an instinctual thing, but it becomes like instinct because it's been taught to us over and over and over again. So just kind of recognizing those theories, understanding those theories are pretty important. I want you to focus on that. Focus on who the agents of socialization are. Those four major ones are family, education, our peers, and media. Some of those agents are formal agents, which means that they have this expectation placed on them that they will provide socialization. And then the informal agents are ones that where socialization takes place, but it's not necessarily required. Okay, so recognizing that. We will also dig into our statuses and our roles, who we are as an individual. Like I am a teacher, so that is one of my statuses. It is an achieved status because I had to do something in order to be able to be a teacher. But within that status of teacher, I have certain expectations, such as teaching students, grading papers, um, various things like that. But I also have the status of mother, right? So as a status of mother, I am to take care of my children. I am to provide for them, right? So those are different things, different expectations, different groups, right? I am not a teacher at home, although mother has that kind of role and expectation as well. But I'm also not a mother in the classroom, right? So recognizing that we can have lots of different statuses with different expectations, and then those expectations are kind of taught to us. Those expectations are roles, and they can conflict at times. So recognizing and understanding role conflict and role strain, that is something to be important, that is kind of important as well. And you'll see an announcement in the course regarding that. So while going through, make sure that you understand the key things that I mentioned today, and let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you're having a great day.